You buy a big pack of chicken, use half of it, wrap the rest in plastic wrap, throw it in the fridge, and 3 days later it's already turning grey and smells off. Or you meal prep on Sunday, and by Wednesday everything tastes dry and sad. Sound familiar? There's a really simple fix that most people overlook, and once you understand how it works, you'll wonder why you didn't start doing this sooner. We're talking about vacuum sealing, what it actually does to your food, how the machine works, and exactly how much longer your food will last. Let's get into it. So first, why does food go bad in the first place? There are two main reasons. The first one is oxygen. Most of the bacteria and mold that spoil your food need oxygen to grow. The moment you expose food to air, that countdown clock starts ticking. The second reason is moisture loss. When food sits in your fridge uncovered or loosely wrapped, moisture evaporates out of it. That's why leftover meat gets that dry, leathery texture, and why bread goes stale. A regular Ziploc bag helps a little, but there's still air trapped inside. And regular plastic wrap lets more oxygen through than most people realize. This is the core problem that vacuum sealing solves. A vacuum sealer does exactly what the name says. It removes the air from a bag and then seals it shut so no new air can get back in. The machine itself is actually pretty simple. It has a small electric pump inside, which is the part that does the sucking. You put your food into a special plastic bag. These bags are thicker than regular bags and have a textured, ribbed surface on the inside. That ribbed texture is important because it creates tiny channels that let air flow out evenly when the pump runs. Without those channels, the bag would just press flat against itself and trap air pockets. You place the open end of the bag into the machine's sealing strip, press the lid down to lock it, and hit the button. The pump pulls air out through those channels, and once the bag is tight around the food, the machine uses a heated strip to melt and fuse the plastic shut. The whole process usually takes about 20 to 30 seconds. When you take the bag out, it's rigid and tight against the food. That's how you know it worked. Now here's the science part that makes this so effective. When you remove the oxygen from around the food, you're essentially cutting off the fuel supply for aerobic bacteria. That's the type of bacteria responsible for most common food spoilage. Without oxygen, they can't multiply nearly as fast. You're also slowing down oxidation, which is the chemical process that makes fats go rancid and causes cut fruit and vegetables to turn brown. And because the bag is sealed airtight, moisture stays locked inside the food instead of evaporating out. The result is food that stays fresher, tastes better, and lasts significantly longer. Let's talk numbers because this is what most people actually want to know. In the fridge, raw meat that normally lasts 3 to 5 days in regular packaging can last up to 2 weeks when vacuum sealed. Cooked leftovers that you'd normally want to eat within 3 or 4 days can stay good for up to 2 weeks as well. Hard cheeses that usually last a few weeks can last several months. In the freezer, the difference is even more dramatic. Normally, meat in the freezer develops freezer burn within 2 to 6 months. That's when ice crystals form on the surface and dry out the texture. Vacuum sealed meat in the freezer can last anywhere from 2 to 3 years without freezer burn. Vegetables that are blanched first and then vacuum sealed can last up to 2 to 3 years in the freezer as well. These are general ranges based on food science guidelines. Actual results depend on how fresh the food was when you sealed it, your fridge and freezer temperatures, and the quality of the bags you use. One important thing to understand is that vacuum sealing does not kill bacteria, it slows them down. So if your food was already on the edge of going bad before you sealed it, sealing it won't save it. You want to vacuum seal food while it's fresh. Also, there are certain foods that actually shouldn't be vacuum sealed as is. Soft cheeses and raw mushrooms, for example, create conditions where anaerobic bacteria, the type that don't need oxygen, can grow. Garlic and onions are similar. These are fine to freeze after being cooked or processed first, but sealing them raw in the fridge can be risky. Freshly baked bread can also be tricky. The moisture inside can create a soggy mess if sealed right away. Let it cool completely first. These are straightforward food safety guidelines that apply to vacuum sealing, and following them keeps the whole process both effective and safe. There are also a few different types of vacuum sealers worth knowing about. The most common one for home use is the external vacuum sealer. That's the flat machine you see on most kitchen counters. It works with those pre-made bags or rolls of bag material you cut to size. They're affordable, easy to use, and great for most everyday food storage needs. Then there are chamber vacuum sealers, which are bigger and more expensive and mostly used in commercial kitchens and restaurants. Instead of sucking air from the bag, they place the entire bag inside a chamber, remove all the air from the chamber, and then seal. This method is better for liquids and marinades because the liquid doesn't get sucked out during the process. And then there are handheld vacuum sealers, small devices that work with special zipper bags or reusable containers. They're convenient for smaller jobs and things you want to open and reseal, but they don't create as strong a seal as the countertop machines. A few practical tips that make a big difference. Always leave about 3 to 4 inches of space between your food and the top of the bag so the seal strip has clean plastic to fuse together. If you're sealing something wet or juicy, like marinated meat or soup, freeze it flat in a tray first until it's solid. Then vacuum seal the frozen block. That way liquid won't get pulled into the machine. Label every bag with the date and what's inside before you freeze it, because 6 months later everything looks the same. And if you're using rolls of bag material instead of pre-cut bags, cut your bags a bit longer than you think you need. You can always trim excess, but you can't add length back. The bags themselves are reusable in most cases. After you finish the food, wash the bag thoroughly with warm soapy water. Let it dry completely, and you can reseal it. The exception is bags that held raw meat. For food safety reasons, it's better to dispose of those rather than reuse them for something else. So to summarize everything, your food spoils because of oxygen exposure and moisture loss. A vacuum sealer removes the air from a bag and seals it completely, which slows bacterial growth, stops oxidation, and locks in moisture. The result is food that lasts 2 to 3 times longer in the fridge and up to 2 to 3 times longer in the freezer compared to regular storage. The machine works with a simple pump and a heat seal strip, and the whole process takes under a minute. Use it on fresh food. Avoid a few specific items that need different handling, and label everything so you actually know what you're eating later. It's one of those tools that genuinely changes how you shop and how much food you throw away. A lot of people find they save enough on wasted groceries to cover the cost of the machine within the first few months. If you want to see a side-by-side comparison of the best vacuum sealers for home use at different price points, that video is linked on screen now. Subscribe if you're into practical kitchen and food content, and let me know in the comments what food you waste the most of. I'm curious to see what comes up. See you in the next one.